everybody used, everybody
having a few
think functionality nowadays. So I really started there, building around that and picking the components, and trying to pick stuff that matched. Also doing research about what I wanted to use the PC for. So building a PC for daily usage to go on, a browser and look at Amazon or like eBay or whatever it may be, is very different than what you need from a video editing PC, because from video editing, you need all the threads that you can get from your CPU. You need fast, disk read writes and stuff like that. So, it's a different beast. You have to do a lot of research for it. So,
how did you work out the bet? So, this is all done on the cheap. Although season 2 does have higher production values. Sorry, everything is done on an old laptop. And I was looking at, well, what if I did buy and built a PC to do the video editing that would be silent, there wouldn't be a fan in the background. So,
yeah.
Do you pick the processor? I somehow assumed you'd pick the graphics card first.
So, for video editing, you tend not to use the GPU. It doesn't, obviously, matters in post editing that video or rendering it. When you start talking about live streaming and how you're going to live stream, your GPU matters a bit more. But I'm not really doing that much live streaming. It's mostly videos, like pre-recorded videos that I then chop afterwards. The live streaming that I've done, I can do from the PC I've got, because it's really just me talking to a camera and maybe screencasting like a PowerPoint or a website. It's not, there's not a lot of intensity in that. But yeah, so I think you're talking about video editing or even photography editing, your GPU matters, but not so much. You could probably spend more money on the quality of your monitor to get like good colors back from the monitor than the GPU. I think that's how I understand it anyway, Mark. There's probably people out there going, she's talking nonsense.
No, I hadn't thought about that. It's all I've done before is I've done some stuff where I created some videos on the Mac, and doing all the editing on the MacBook Pro, so on a 2012 one, is all really cool. It all kind of works. And then when I go, right, push it up to YouTube, or render it, that's when it spends 40 minutes just going, the fan comes on, starts roaring away.
Yep.
So that's why I was thinking, well, if you're kind of doing that in real time, is that not? But it's something that I kind of looked at. Well, if I can steal I don't do anything that's original. So if I can just steal your ideas, pass them off as my own, then that's much better, isn't it?
It's not so much stealing, it's just building on the stuff I've done. That's the way you sell it. You're just building on my idea.
Yes.
Not stealing.
Yeah. I'm inspired by you. Is that the term? Well, it's kind of, there are so many people doing YouTube videos and so many people doing I only found out today you had another chat with someone else. Right, you've already done this before. This is just going to be you're just doing the same stuff again. This is just going to be another tedious chat about technology. So I do apologise if we're covering any of the same stuff.
Not at all. Not at all. I enjoy this kind of stuff, and it's weird because, see, if you'd met me to come in on your show, because I was the shyest person ever, and over the last 4 or 5 years, I've totally come out my shell and found, I want to say, confidence, for lack of a better word, in doing stuff like this, and just believe it. To say for people, hopefully, to listen to.
Well, I think when I talk to people and they go, oh, that must be difficult presenting or whatever, and I'd like to I'd like to do that, and you go, well, you can. I mean, everybody's got something unique people go, I haven't got anything to talk about. And you go, well, you're doing something really unique at your company that no one else is doing. I bet you'll do, and so you could talk about that. Everybody's got something unique about them. They just think that they're not as good as everybody else. And in fact, kind of, that's probably diluting the pool, because you just have the same people presenting, and you want fresh people with new ideas, instead of old fogies like me saying the same.
I think it's nice when new speakers or new people come onto the community scene, because everybody tells the story differently. So the way I tell a story might be completely different from how you tell it, but we might hit different people in the audience because they prefer your style versus my style, or the way I present it or tell it. So I think it's nice when people take that first step. I appreciate it's completely hard. I was scared the first time I ever did a presentation. But once you do that, you find that the community are really welcoming, or at least I have, and they're all dead supportive. So no one wants you to fail. I don't think I've ever stood up in front of an audience and knowing there was somebody that wants me to fail, So I think everybody's super supportive, and doing it just helps you become better at various different things as well. So I totally encourage everybody to try it at least once.
Well, I mean, is there a user group in maybe Glasgow around the Azure topic that someone could go to?
Yes, there is. So about 3 years ago, I founded the Glasgow Azure user group. We're running virtually at the moment, which is a slightly different scenario for us all, but we're still trying to keep the community together, because we've built up such a great group of people and environment that I really enjoy going to. So it's a great platform, and speaking at your local user group is a great way to start in that public speaking journey, because often there'll be people in the audience that and are comfortable with, and can encourage you and help you, and just have that safe space the first time you ever speak, rather than being on a stage in front of hundreds of people that you don't ever know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing that, hundreds of people, unless you're an amazingly gifted presenter. Do you have or did you run like lightning talks, so like 5-15 minute small topics, so people could get started and get the experience?
We have done that. So there's a couple of other user groups that run in Glasgow. I think you actually had one of the organisers on, Craig Porteous. He runs and I'm probably getting the name wrong because he's changed it, the Glasgow Data User Group, or
some nonsense. Yeah, don't worry about him. Yeah.
SQL, yeah.
It's just data.
There's that user group, and then and there's also the PowerShell one, and there was Office 365 and SharePoint user group. And what we did was come together, because we're all Microsoft, obviously the community events where people can do 15-minute lightning talks, and we even had a guy speaking about data on AWS. So we're totally not discriminatory against what technology want. It's about sharing your experiences and allowing people the chance to stand up and speak if they want to do that. Yeah,
I think now is quite a tough time to do those kind of lightning things over kind of remote stuff. Is really tricky, because I like the audience. I like to see the audience. I like to look at their eyes as they glaze over and fall asleep. I like to know whether I've hit that topic, or whether they've got the joke, or whether they haven't got the joke. I like to session. I threw out an inflatable beach ball into the audience, and I got some awful looks from some of the people in the audience. I had no idea what was going on. But you can't do that virtually. You can't play with people. Which is kind of one of the nice things of when you're in the room. I mean, you could do it 1-to-1, and maybe if you had a small group. I kind of go on.
Yeah. No, I find in the small groups as well, people aren't turning their camera on, so you're not getting that feedback in a small group that you would normally get. So you're just staring at blank screens because they've not turned their cameras on. So again, you don't know whether they're paying attention. You don't know whether they're maybe chuckling, even on mute, to that joke you've just made, or if they're thinking about it. So often, at the end of a session, I'll go, any questions? And you could, when you're in person with people, you can see them maybe thinking or shuffling, trying to figure out, am I brave enough to ask, or do I wait till I get the speaker one-to-one? You're not getting that online because people don't have their cameras on, so you don't see whether they're maybe struggling to put their headset on to ask a question, or whether they're just shy, or whether they've all went away because their kids are doing something and they've had to go and attend. So range. I think it's going to be hard for new speakers to come forward now, because you not only have to deal with the speaking part, you have to deal with all the tech that you have to have in place, and you have to be your own producer.
I hate tech. Winds me up no end. It's awful.
Yeah. Well, did you see my last week? I do a weekly update video on my YouTube channel, and I decided to do it live last week, streaming it. So all set up, got my lighting okay, did my makeup, had my agenda, turned on the live stream, was talking for about 5 minutes, and then realised, because there's obviously a delay between me streaming and it going live on YouTube, that my microphone wasn't working. So no one could hear me. And then I had to faff about trying to get that ready while the live stream was still working. So it's not fun.
I mean, that's why, to break the showbiz magic, that's why we have the 15 minutes where we meet up for 15 minutes and I get the sound and stuff sorted out. Because I have got people on, and and then that my video camera doesn't work. And then, I've done a Windows update. The video camera doesn't work. The sound from Teams doesn't work. The mic doesn't work. And I have to sort that out. Who would update Windows every 2 weeks? Only an idiot would do that. Only an idiot on the early adopter pro. Why would anyone put themselves through that on a laptop they use for this kind of thing? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think my boss is actually struggling with that as well. He's on one of the insider builds, and he thinks it's done something to break his fancy camera that he uses for streaming. So I think it was a way to rebuild his laptop back to a insider build. Yeah, it has its perils.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything nice and new and shiny that doesn't exist that other people have access to. All I'm saying are just messages, and then if you can put them off like an hour. No, I won't reboot. No, I won't reboot. So, yeah. I'm going to, before we go too far, and I forget about this, is I'm going to ask you a Richard Herring emergency question.
Okay.
So this is from the Richard Herring emergency question book. These are 1 to 1001 questions that he uses in his talk show. Are you familiar with Richard Herring?
No, never heard of him. Is that bad?
No, nobody has ever heard of him. It's only me. Why? Sorry. Okay, pick a number between 1 and 1001. I should have prepared you for this, shouldn't I? But it'd be fine. Don't worry.
It's okay. Go for 63.
63. I didn't ask you what your favourite episode from season 1 was of this pod chat. 63.
Well, see, I actually watched the one with Craig, and you pulled out that book and you asked him, like, was it when he was breastfed or something, Till? And I was like, so yeah, that episode has stuck in my mind.
All right, okay, this is actually quite an easy one.
Okay.
If you had to, if you really had to, would you rather give up chocolate or cheese?
Cheese. I'd give up cheese.
Is that because you can't give up chocolate, or is that?
Well, actually, I've discovered that cheese makes me cough. I might have an allergy to cheese, so that's an easy one to give up.
Makes you cough?
I end up coughing, so whenever I have a pizza with cheese on it, it irritates my throat and makes me cough.
What you want is vegan cheese, Okay, if it's is it the dairy? Do you think it's doing it, or
potentially? Although I think I might have narrowed it down to it's just mozzarella cheese, which is even more gutting, as that's the perfect pizza cheese.
yeah, but isn't that bull? No, can't be bull
It's
cheese.
buffalo.
Yeah, buffalo. I mean bull. I mean
It's
clearly.
buffalo.
Yeah, that's the male of the animal. You don't get cheese.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, you don't get milk. Oh, yes, that's I'm just gonna have to go with it's a family show. So, do you know what I saw you had? And this really winds me up. It's a personal bugbear. You've got an Elgato Stream Deck, haven't you?
Do you not like them?
No, I know. I'd love them. I mean, but they're like really expensive. but I don't think I would get the ultimate use out of it. So I'm having to hit function keys and move the mouse around to change the stuff. So do you like it? I'm trying to use people to convince me to buy one. I'm trying to justify it to myself.
I probably don't use it as much as you might use it because you do streaming quite a bit. So changing the scenes is quite easy. I like it when I do that live stream. I can switch the scenes because I've got buttons and I've got like icons on the buttons. So it works good that way. When I'm not streaming, I use it as shortcuts. So I've got buttons to software and websites that I constantly open. And that's now my shortcuts to them. So it's good. I like it. It's a handy bit of kit. So yeah,
for 140 odd quid, I'm just struggling to justify that when it basically just stops me from, it would give me higher production values, but I can simply just use switch with the mouse and stuff.
They've got one on the mobile phone, so you pay a monthly fee on the app and you can run it on your mobile phone, which might be cheaper or a possibility to try and see if you do like it. You
can, do you use OBS or do you use Streamlabs OBS?
OBS.
Right. If you use Streamlabs OBS, there's an app that's straight away with the phone, so you can I could use my phone with it.
Okay.
But I tried using it, and I just don't think it's got the same level of control. I mean, I looked at when you did one of your live streams. And you've got that pre-bit at the beginning with the music playing and stuff. How do you do that?
That's a combination of OBS and me messing about in Photoshop and making a GIF.
So are you
actually just a loop?
So you're actually live, but you're just playing that loop?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I did wonder how you did that because I was thinking I would do that and I'd accidentally leave the mic open or something. And
well, with the OBS, you can set it so that your mic's not there within the scene. So it's just that GIF or that video that I've got, and there's no microphone, so I can't talk over it.
All right, okay. Because I have nightmares. Well, not nightmares. There was it wasn't me. It was someone else. We were presenting in London. Yeah, and he had a lapel mic on, and then went off to the loo. So I did go over to the mixing desk, and I just took the sound levels down, so people couldn't hear him in there. Then when he came back, I obviously put them back up, and I went, "You were in the loo, weren't you?" And he was going, "Yeah, your mic was on." He goes, "What? No mic was on." Yeah.
Yep.
It has happened.
It's
obviously I thought it'd be funnier to tell him it was on when it wasn't, but it's nice watching people look mortified. Is that just me?
If they make me up, yeah, no, that's fun. I think I'd probably hit you, Mark, though, if you did it to me. So yeah, don't try it with me.
It wasn't one of those high stress situations, like, if you're just going on with it was the biggest room, but it wasn't high stress. It was a friendly room.
Yeah, I'd still hit you. Don't do it with me.
All right. I mean, if you do go off with the loo, either leave the mic on the table or turn it off. I mean, that is the ideal, isn't it?
I usually tell the sound guys.
What, to make sure to come and get it?
Because I've done that.
Oh, what you have?
Either to unplug me or turn it off, because at some events they want you there so early to test the levels of the sound, to set it up, and then at least I get nervous again and need to run to the toilet before I present. So often I've had to run with a mic there because it's all wired up, and I have to be like, can you make sure you turn that off because I'm going to the toilet.
Well, at least someone's looking after it. Yeah. You haven't got me on the sound desk going, yeah, turn that up. Have you presented it at some really big conferences then?
I presented at Orlando for Ignite last year, last November. So that's probably my biggest, which was 900 odd people in the room. So that was a different level.
Yeah, I mean that's brown trousers type situation, isn't it?
Especially when I realised it was the stage they were using for Scott Hanselman and Mark Rusinovich that week as well. So if you know those names and you know the crowds they draw in, then you can imagine the size of the room. And yeah, it was very scary.
That must be so cool, though. I'm on the same stage that Scott Hanselman or Mark Rusinovich is. Obviously, yeah, people probably don't know him, but they might know Tweak UI or the system internal tools. And Scott Hanselman. I mean, if you do anything, it's interesting because if you do anything in dev, you'll know Scott Hanselman. But I wouldn't have thought he'd be that popular. He's not that popular in data world, but is he popular in the infrastructure world?
Yeah, actually, probably not. Yeah, probably not, actually.
So
although I imagine lots of people know him just from the amount of stuff that he does. Maybe. He always keynotes at probably most of the Microsoft. But I need to watch what I'm saying here.
No one's watching. Well, all right, there are a few people watching. Actually, do you know, I'm really bad at actually keeping an eye on the channel to see if people are putting messages in. Let's see if there's... no. And there's also... well, I don't normally ask people to put stuff in. So, which is what people, you're supposed to do. You're supposed to ask people who are watching, or where are you watching from, etc. It's too much hassle. I mean, I, like you, don't have a producer.
It's another screen you have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and there's enough screens. I've got you on this screen, and then I've got OBS there, and I've got the MacBook there with it on, and it would just look really odd if I'm just constantly. It would not be good for my neck.
Yep.
So right, I saw that you built those sound baffles by hand, and people don't. So the thing that Tux is sitting on, and that Channel 9 chicken, is it a chicken?
Channel.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's a chicken. I think he's.
Is it a person?
I think he's a robot.
Maybe. Is he a robot?
It's like a robot. It's like.
Oh, okay. It's a little person. It's just the bit at the top looked a bit like a chicken. So you built those. You built them yourself. So you're quite handy then.
Probably handier than my husband. I do all the DIY at home. Maybe. I'm not frightened of doing stuff like that or trying it. But yeah, it's okay. It probably could have been a bit better, but yeah, probably my first DIY project at home. There's a few things, if I was doing them again, to be honest, I'd change. To be fair, but I think they work quite well. Certainly from the test that I did in the room when it had nothing on the walls and was quite bare, versus what the sound sounds like now with them there is much better. So it's a fun project to try, Mark. So, and it kind of looks good in the background, I think, rather than those sound panels that everybody has. I'm not a fan of them, to be honest.
I quite like the look of them. I don't know if you can see, right, just wrong one. So there, right, there's a monitor there, and just above it, see that odd shaped thing? I've got 2 sweatshirts up against the wall to absorb sound. Sorry.
It works. It works.
I mean, it is huge production values that I have. And that is part of that attempt of just absorbing that sound. And on a podcast I used to do a few years ago, I'd chat to people and then I'd record the intro afterwards, and I would huddle under a duvet with this microphone.
If it works, then do it.
I heard someone else doing it, someone who does sort of semi-professional podcasting, because the sound is so dead. Try it. I mean, it's unpleasant when because you think, oh, being under a duvet just with a microphone, easy. No. Being under a duvet with a microphone and a laptop, pumping heat out, it gets quite hot and sweaty underneath there. Not very pleasant. And then you're lifting it up.
Definitely, probably you want to do it in one take.
I'm not a one take person. Actually, this might be. So, how long does it take you to record videos? So, if you were doing a technical video,
it depends on what I'm doing. So, see if it's like a presentation that I'm delivering. Probably I can maybe do it in 1 or 2 takes. If it's a screencast, it takes really long because I do it separately. I do all the video and like create these massive long videos, then do the sound recording and then chop the video down and speed it up where it needs sped up. So it takes me forever to do that kind of stuff. I know other people record it and speak at the same that method, because as I'm sure you know, when you do that kind of thing, something will go wrong or it will take longer than you're expecting, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there going thinking, and then you suddenly lose the theme of what you're doing because you'll pick up your phone or whatever, or you need to start all over again one video. So I'd do the video and then the audio and then obviously the post-production, so it can take me quite a while. I'm sure there's better ways, but that's what works for me.
I was speaking to, I don't know if you know Dave Lusty. He's a CSA. Sorry, that's internal chat. Dave does demos. And I asked him how Dave does demos. And so he does the same thing as you. He records the stuff in advance and then he'll edit it down and then he'll do the voiceover. I find that incredibly difficult to do, and I've got into the habit. So I've been trying to record some, and what I do is it'll take me ages to get started. There'll be 8 or 9 different takes where I'm just going, and at the screen, and then I'll try and get it out in 1 or 2 takes. And if there is a long period of time where I'm waiting for, an Azure deployment, what I've done is I've sped the video up to like 1 to 20 times something speed, and then I'll sit there and I'll pick a book up. Well, all right, it amused me. I had like 5 seconds of me reading in fast like motion and then putting the book down, or drinking or whatever, or just to show that time has passed, and then I get back down into normal speed. It's not, should we say, the professional way of doing it, but it made me giggle, and so I've done it a couple of times.
It's actually quite a good idea. I might have to try something like that. The thing I think we've got right now is video fatigue, or online conference fatigue. So I think if you can inject a bit of humour or a bit of human element into what you're doing, especially the pre-recorded stuff, then I think people are going to appreciate that. Not sure how well it would have went down if we still had like in-person events and stuff like that, but certainly now I think there's a chance to play with what you're doing and just expand on it and try and make people smile or laugh while they're learning as well.
I mean, you haven't seen me at an in-person event where I tell the audience off.
Do you?
Yeah. All right. So I took. It shouldn't be about me. It should be you. But I equate presentation and stuff that we do when we're talking to people a lot with how stand-up comedians work. So we'll go out and we'll do a presentation a few times, but stand-up comedians will do the same 5 minutes and the same hour over and over and over again, and they'll get really, really good at it. And I find that when we might do the same presentation 4 or 5 times and then move on, we'll get bored with it and do something else. And I find that kind of we should be doing that, practicing. But I borrowed some inspiration from a comedian called Stuart Lee, where he will play with the audience and tell the audience off. And there was a whole thing where I made a joke and I went, look, all right, like, the jokes don't get any better than this, right? This is the level we're at, right? And so, if this isn't good enough, right, best to leave, and then I'll do some more stuff, and then there'll be something else. I'd ask a question of the audience, and no one would respond because they don't, and I just tell them this isn't good enough, right? I'm putting my heart and soul into this, right? I'm up here working as hard as I can, and you're just sitting there doing nothing, right? I kind of need you to, the bare minimum, just to answer a question, which kind of puts him in a really awkward situation. But the idea is that they're in an uncomfortable situation, so they may be listening more rather than if they were just there going, "Oh, well, he's talking about something. I've heard all this before." So it took a bit of practice to get that down, but it made me laugh, and I was really kind of doing it for me. But about you. So why? So you've got the Glasgow user group. You've got your blog. We didn't even talk about your blog because that's where you put up the stuff. My
blog's been going for.
Sorry.
Yeah, my blog's been going for a while now, and it's went through different iterations. So it started on like Blogger maybe 5-6 years ago.
No. I've got something on Blogspot as well. Sorry.
Yeah, it's been that consistent kind of thing, and although it's weird, so looking through some of the analytics, the stuff I wrote 5-6 years ago on things like DHCP or System Center Configuration Manager or even Exchange 10 still gets quite a lot of hits. Now, I don't know if that's robots or not. I've never really looked into it, but it's just as popular as some of the stuff I'm doing now on Azure. So it's really weird because I've often thought maybe I'll take that content down, but then it's still a top hitter, so I leave it up there because if it's helping somebody, then I keep doing it. So,
well, it was relevant, and it's at the time, and clearly still relevant. Yeah, keep doing it.
Yeah. The more is how DHCP actually works, because I found when I was working a couple of jobs ago, there was a person in charge of DHCP, so they knew how DHCP worked. Then there was a person in charge of System Center Configuration Manager, which is obviously the device. But the two of them didn't know each other's job. And then I became this person that was the person that knew both, because I was the older person in that conversation. I'd had more experience and done most of those. And then I wrote a blog article about that and how DHCP devices, and that's probably the most popular article I've got on my blog. And to me, not sounding big-headed, but that's a simple thing, something that I think most people should know about, like how DHCP works in IT. Again, not sounding big-headed or but it's interesting that that's a top hitter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah.
Even writing those simple blogs. kind of effective?
I mean, I don't know what it's like in the infrastructure community, but when you've been in the kind of the data community for a while, everybody is interested in the new, the shiny, the kind of the sexy technology. And we all forget about, well, everyone still needs to know how backups work. Everyone still needs to know all this basic stuff. Well, we consider basic, but actually it's kind of everyone sort of shifts on, and then forgets about all this other stuff. And you need all this other stuff, because how do people learn how to do backups and restores and simple things, and set up mailboxes in Exchange? I mean, all right, to be fair, I haven't seen Exchange since why am I thinking Exchange 7? We're talking Exchange on NT4 and NT351. That's when I last played with Exchange. Oh, wow. Yeah, some of us are old. When you say the old person in the team, I'm normally the old person in the team.
Okay.
Yeah, old on the outside, crunchy on the inside.
Nice.
So what else are you doing? Because are people going to be able to actually catch you at kind of events and talking about stuff and presenting on cool, sexy stuff? None of the old boring stuff.
Yeah. I've got a few user groups and presentations lined up. I think I've got one tomorrow night. If you're watching this live, there's one tomorrow night about Azure fundamentals. So it's a very high level talk about what Azure can actually offer you and trying to explain what Azure is. And then I think next week, again, if you're watching this live, there's a couple of shows I'm going to be on, live streams about Azure Migrate and that migration journey. That's, as I said at the top of the show, that's my kind of sweet spot. That's what I like talking about. So yeah, there's a few things still. If you go on my blog, I do have a speaking page and it lists all the engagements that I've got. So you can come and find me and listen to me if you want there.
All right. So one of the things that I kind of do towards the, I haven't even asked you the standard question that everyone. So there were two standard questions.
Okay.
Never mind. So this season's standard question is, what's your favourite album?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm really crap with album names.
I can help you out.
I don't know. At the moment, I'm listening to album, or I like Barbra Streisand. So any of her albums. I think Butterfly is the one I'm listening to at the moment on repeat. So
sorry, I'm going through one of those. I'm going through a tunnel. Did you say Barbra Streisand?
I love Barbara.
All right.
Which actually ties in because Lady Gaga is a massive Barbra Streisand fan as well. So there's a link there.
Yeah, no. There's nothing wrong. Don't. There's no shame. Everybody's embraced. It's just interesting that kind of everybody listens to a certain type of music or a different range of music, and it's just kind of you would expect Barbra Streisand to be in slightly older range, but no one's listening. I'll listen to a little bit of Celine Dion. It's just no shame here. There's nothing wrong with being a good singer and appreciating good music. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to help you out with any Barbra Streisand albums. And I would ask you the cheese question, but actually it sounds like you're intolerant of cheese. But did you have a favourite cheese when you could eat it?
It's mozzarella is my favourite cheese, the one that's constantly making me cough right now. So
try vegan mozzarella.
Okay, I'll see if I can find that and try it.
Because when I was up in Glasgow, I did go around the vegan restaurants, and there's some really nice ones, like not just kind of really hot, scummy places. There's some really, I think is it 78? I think it's called. They did a nice vegan pizza in there.
Okay.
Obviously, stuff is just opening up now, so I don't know whether they would be open.
Well, unfortunately, my husband's in the shielding category, although things are opening up, we are technically still in lockdown to the end of July if everything goes to plan. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird time.
No, well, I think everything is a weird time. There is no normal. We used to talk. Yeah. I used to mention the new normal. There is no normal.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
So we might get a bit serious now. So the final question is who to kind of nominate as kind of the next person for me to speak to. And I think I picked you because A, you worked at Microsoft, and B, I saw your blog, or I saw some stuff on Twitter that you did. And then I saw your YouTube stuff, and then I thought, oh, okay, you present and stuff, so you might be okay with coming on. But it's a bit weird. I think it's a bit weird for me to just ask people randomly, anybody, but especially women randomly, to come onto the podcast, which is why I ask people to do sort of the introductions. So,
yep.
And we were talking earlier on this, but you know. There's, you know, what's your feeling
about women in tech?
Yeah,
and you want a nomination
and creepy men, who approach you to speak at their strange YouTube channels.
So I've heard a lot that male organisers of events or shows or whatever are a bit tentative in reaching out to female speakers or potential female speakers because they'll come across as that creepy person potentially, especially if the person they're reaching out to they don't know. The way I approach it, even if I'm reaching out to someone I don't know, is I'll go and maybe research that person because there'll be a reason I want them on to come and speak or come and guest on a show or whatever. So if I find something really interesting, a blog post that they've written or a video that they've done, I'll use that as kind of leverage to get into the conversation. So say I read your blog, could you come and do you do a presentation on that? Could you come up to the user group and do it that way? And then that way I think it's more personal and it shows that you've put in effort to actually learn about that person and you're not potentially reaching out because of their gender or the colour of their skin or whatever. And that way they'll hopefully be a bit more receptive. But yeah, that's kind of how I approach it sometimes, Mark.
I mean, I did see your YouTube, especially the live stream thing you did before, where I could see you using OBS and you're doing some really cool stuff. And I've got to ask you about that. So this is just a vanity project for me to talk to people I'm interested in. And it's just kind of a nice way of doing that rather than just kind of approaching you out of the blue and going, tell me how you use OBS because I'm really bad at it. Which is kind of still fair enough. But so how do you find, I know it's a big, so I used to run a user group in Southampton, and I used to help out with things like SQL Relay and stuff. And there was always less women wanting to speak or asking to speak. And even the people that I asked to be on this, I've had I've asked more men. I've had one guy say no, and I've had sort of 3 women say no. And obviously I've asked a lot less women because I know a lot less women. Because I'm one of these creepy men that approach, strange creepy men that approach people. You own it, right? You got to own it. That's what it is. Yep. But if there was a better way of doing it, so you've described a better way of doing it. And these were people that I knew. So even though there seem to be less women and I know less women. So in fact, actually, what's interesting is following you on Twitter and seeing some of your Twitter followers and seeing some of them that like this. There's kind of more tech people, and there's someone else who I'm following now. She's in the US. She's a PFE. She just happens. Who is it? Gothic opera singer. Do you know who she is? So I'm just kind of following her stuff. She does. I'm going to ask her on at some point because she does some rant about kind of women in IT and kind of advocates and stuff. But there's lots of profanity in there, which is I would enjoy.
Nice.
And since this is a nice rounded family show, but it's so you're quite happy for people to. It's just everyone is different. So some people are going to be happy for people to approach them, and they'll go, yeah, and other people will find it a bit weird. I know if someone approached me, I'd find it a little weird. What are they after? Do they want my bank account details?
I think I don't find it weird now because I'm in a role where I'm expected to present and come on shows and do podcasts. So I'm probably in a slightly different position than maybe other people that aren't in the advocacy role. But yeah, there is an element of creepiness as well. Sometimes the way people approach you. Well,
I've heard some other stuff. So even in the data community where people have put some stuff up on Twitter about how they've been, I mean, trolled is one word of it, and kind of, and had people stalking them. So you just don't want that to be the case, or even trigger that in people. So that's why I'm kind of just a bit careful. And in fact, I haven't asked, most of the people I've asked on are people I know or people who have been recommended. So, so
it's a shame. It's a shame that there's people out there that ruin it for others and make people uncomfortable. But
there's always going to be people that muck it up. That will always not intentionally, just because they are who they are. They'll muck it up for others.
Yeah,
and we just have to kind of just rise above that and go, like, not everybody is like that. Some of us are creepy and weird, but we don't want anything from you. But maybe just an hour of your time. Oh, I do want something from you. Oh no, I've just completely wrecked all that, haven't I?
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you for that. So, how do you find being a woman in IT? Do you actually find that you get? This might be a bit deep, and maybe not the right time. But do you find that you still get much sexism? Do you find that people see you and they kind of overlook you, or?
That's a tough one. I always say I'm relatively lucky in that I've not had too many creepy incidents and maybe hopefully not suffered too much. My first job in IT was surrounded by women. I worked on a team of 6 women and 1 guy. And then the rest of the team was actually a 50-50 split when we looked at it. So I never started in the industry thinking it was male orientated and I was going to be the unicorn in the room or whatever. So I've kind of privileged from that point of view. As I progressed and changed roles, I then became the oddity in the room because I was the only girl, or I was the only technical girl in the room, or I was the only infrastructure girl in the room. Because there's a lot more people, and I think maybe generalising a bit here, but there's a lot more women in data and there's a lot more women in development than there is in infrastructure. Because I think I can probably list the amount of infrastructure women I know on, my 10 fingers mark, to be honest.
You've got 10. I've only got
8. But yeah, there's been a few incidents I've had. I was once told that in order to progress, I had to wear low-cut tops and dress like a girl. So that was fun. And I was quite young at the time, so I did follow the advice, thinking he was pointing me in the right direction. And then I had a tight fitted shirt on and had to climb under a desk because at that time my role was fitting desktop PCs and crawling under desks and cabling stuff, and I burst the shirt and ripped it. And then ironically I had to go and borrow a t-shirt from someone. I got one of the engineering guy t-shirts, which was just just a big male t-shirt, the company logo. I then got hauled over the calls for wearing not appropriate clothing at work, even though it was a company branded t-shirt. And I'd ripped my actual shirt in the line of work. So you can't win in some certain situations. Too many of those incidents. So I'm slightly privileged in that regard. I know other women have had it tougher than me. But yeah, so I'm in a weird position where I know it happens, but thankfully it's not really happened to me, Mark.
Right. I mean, all I can do is apologise for, and as I said earlier, it's because women are the majority. They are the 51%. Men are 49%. All I can do is apologise for the rest of the men in the room here and whoever you meet, and we'll try harder. And I think that's, but without people pointing it out and going, let's stop that, you creepy idiot, or right, you've overstepped the boundary. But it's very difficult in that situation, because especially if your boss says that's not the right thing to wear, you go, well, clearly they're giving me, this is the right advice. Why would they be doing, you don't automatically assume that, they're a creepy pervert.
Yeah.
I mean, once you probably get older, you can probably see that happening more. Yeah. But we all get taken advantage of when we're younger, just not quite in the same way. I can't equate anything that's happened to me with that. And I, we just, as people, we just have to kind of be aware of that, know it's happening, and then speak up when it does happen. And kind of just go, no. Because I think when I've worked in IT, pretty much my bosses have all been women. And in most of the roles, women have been a minority, but not significantly. And kind of all the senior managers have been women. And sort of from that point, they are hopefully dictating part of the culture, but you can't stop idiots from being idiots.
True. And a lot of great bosses I've had have been female. My current boss is male, and I think he's wonderful. But yeah. But
I think my PFE boss, she was really great. And kind of, you don't have to have highly technical bosses when you're in technical roles. You just need people that care.
Yep. And people that trust you to do the job right, if they don't know how to do the job, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're to manage you rather than manage your day-to-day work. I mean, otherwise they should be doing your job. You are in your job because you are the best at doing your job. That's kind of, and especially at Microsoft, you are the best and then the best in Microsoft for doing that job and being that cloud advocate. Do you know what? I still like the term evangelist. I know it might be an old-fashioned term, but product or whatever, tech or evangelist. I think that used to be the name of your role. I don't know. Yeah, I like that.
I don't know. I guess it's just one of those industry terms that we've changed, but it really means the same thing.
It does. I don't know. I like the term evangelist though, because it just makes me think of, you up on a stage, you're going, oh, this is great. And, and I guess it's less about how great the product is, but when you're an advocate, you are there with the customer. And I guess it means a different thing because you're advocating the right thing for the customer rather than being, this is the best thing in the world. And you need to use J# because it's the best thing in the world and it's never going to stop. Yeah. Sorry, something's still hurt. J#, that still hurts, all right? Just so you know. I know you're probably too young to remember J#, but it still hurts. Still hurts.
Still got the scars.
Yeah. Whole product, J#. And then it got canned. Sorry. All right, we'll get back to who do you think would be a good person for me to talk to next? Sorry. I love the way you're just going. Oh, he just keeps going on and on, doesn't he?
It's okay. I'm going to recommend that you reach out to April Edwards, who is also a Microsoftie. She has an interesting career path. You need to ask her about that. She shared that recently on a podcast with another good friend that you should probably reach out to, Lisa Clark. Two awesome women in different sides of technology. But yeah, those are definitely two names you should reach out to and see if they're willing to. I know he probably jump at the chance. Lisa probably will as well. But yeah.
All right, cool. I'll take those names down. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for spending your evening with me. And hopefully, your husband has managed to feed himself.
I think he's okay. I've got live football back. He's probably watching some kind of football game, so he's probably not even noticed I'm not there, Mark.
All right, okay. Well, I'll let you get back to being ignored by live football. I mean, I'm back to editing videos. All right, thank you for your time, and bye-bye, everybody. Yep. And we'll just stop streaming.